Hi, my name is Rhonda Rainier. I was born and raised in Powhatan Point, Ohio, which is a small town right on the Ohio River across from West Virginia. Um, I have two brothers. I was the baby girl, so I have two older brothers, and that's always fun. um, when I was 20 years old, my brother above me moved to Colorado. He was in the Air Force. He had asked me if I wanted to come out there and live. I mean, I came from a small town. There wasn't much going on at the time. So I went ahead and I moved out there. With him being in the Air Force, he worked in the emergency room at the time. And that's when I met my husband. Um, we will soon, in 2 weeks, be celebrating our 27th year. In those 27 years, we raised two beautiful daughters. One of them, my oldest, is married and lives in Omaha, Nebraska. I have a 6-year-old granddaughter that just started first grade this week. Um, my baby girl still lives at home. She's 21. She's attending college right now. She's working on her nursing degree. Uh, we have two great dogs, which I'm sure you just see one that keeps popping up behind me. Um, I work for the Army Air Force Exchange Service now for 23 years. The Army Air Force Exchange Service is like a department store that's on the military installations. We started out in Colorado Springs and got our first assignment, which was to the Azores. Coming from a small town, my parents had a hard enough time trying to deal with me moving to Colorado, but then when I told them that I was moving overseas and when I told them the location, and they had never heard of it before, nor had I, but it was a small island right in the middle of the Atlantic, right off the coast of Lisbon, Portugal. It is owned by Portugal. We lived there for 2 years, and we got our first assignment, and it was to Wright-Patterson, Ohio, and I couldn't tell my parents because I didn't want to go back at that point. So we extended for an extra year. From there, we went to Washington State, Spokane. That is where I had my second daughter. She was born in Spokane, and we were there for 4 years. Left there, went to Italy for 4 years, and that was a wonderful experience. We traveled all over Europe at that time. Once we left Europe, we came back to Washington State again. So mind you, my parents are down there going, when are you ever coming back? Well, being in the military, we went where they sent us. So the next place that we went was to Omaha, Nebraska. Was after we went to Seattle after Italy. Then we went to Omaha, Nebraska, which is where my daughter met her present husband, and she stayed there. So that was one child that stayed behind. So we still had our other one, and we moved on from there down to Biloxi, Mississippi. We were down there for 3 years, and then when my husband retired, we moved back here to San Antonio, which he was a military brat, so that's basically, where we ended up. No, he didn't want to come back here, but I didn't want to see any more snow. I was over that. I wanted to stay warm for a while. Right now, I would say that the different jobs that I had within the Army Air Force Exchange Service, I've gone anywhere from a cashier, supervisor, manager, work my way up. My husband would get orders. I'd start at the bottom again, work my way back up. But mostly, I've stayed on the management side of it. I went from a supervisor to a manager, and when I became a manager, I moved over into the training portion. I worked for Corporate University that's stationed out of headquarters, so we were still piped in. In that position, I created classes. We had management classes that I would train for. I would train the food folks in ServSafe and get them certified. That lasted for about 4 years. And just recently, this May, they were trying to downsize the company because, of course, when the military downsizes, we also do. When we downsized, they moved the learning facilitators, the trainers, into human resources, which I've always absolutely loved human resources and working with people. So right at this time, I'm in HR tech. I'm stationed down at Lackland Air Force Base. And I'm working on my BA for in business, with hopes that once I obtain my degree that I'll be able to become a human resource manager right where I'm at, because hopefully everything will line up, and once my manager decides it's time to retire, which is about the same time I'm going to be getting my degree, everything will fall into place. I started college late in life. My family was also always first. You know, I wanted to raise my kids, and I felt, you know, kind of bored after everybody was gone and had their own life. So it was time for me to enjoy mine. So school always intimidated me, but I wasn't giving up. I put everything I had into it. I started back to college. My dad was my biggest fan. In my first year, I lost my dad to cancer in November of 2012, and that had been a struggle with, you know, just starting school, and I was very close to my dad, but, you know, I know that my dad, he no longer hurts, and, you know, he still lives on. Um, whenever, um, whenever, I'm, you know, continued on with my courses, it was a struggle, but, you know, you learn to pick yourself up and keep going, because it's like, you know, the way he encouraged me. Um, as far as, as far as my first experience with, being public speaking, it was my interview for the learning facilitator job. It was through VTC, a video teleconference. I had to start a training class. So of course I started the training class. I start talking, and I'm walking around the room and explaining things to the invisible students. And when I happened to look up at the camera, I wasn't on it. I had totally walked off the screen. So that in itself was enough to say I move around too much whenever I am doing training. My second experience with it, which was a training course, once I was hired in that position, they sent us to headquarters Dallas. I had to, I was trained by Zig Ziglar in headquarters Dallas. There was 15 of us that went at that time. And what they did is, the very first recording that they did of us, and yes, they did videotape us during all of our speeches, they would give us a cue card, and it would have a sentence on it that they wanted us to talk about. They gave us, you know, like 4 minutes that they want us to talk about the subject. How to build a, or how to load a cannon was mine. So you're like grabbing for straws. There was a lot of and, you know, a lot of different things like that in there, but you learned. I learned all the little tweaks that I, you know, the little twerks that I had, and, you know, all kinds of little things that I did that I've improved on over time. So I would say that public speaking for anyone, I don't care who it is, it's a challenge, because it's, you know, it's something to get used to. But once you get up there, you know, you learn your own style. You know, that's why I'm really looking forward to this class, and, you know, what it has to offer. And hopefully I can offer the class something. So it's nice to meet everybody.